This is a Datsun 240Z. This is the beginning of a long line of two-seater sports cars from Japan. And you might ask, why am I reviewing this car? Well, the Nissan 370Z was recently reviewed, and if you haven't seen that review, I will leave a link in the description. So I thought I would start at the beginning. This is the great-great-great-great-great-grandfather to the Nissan 370Z. How is that possible, you ask? This is a Datsun, that is a Nissan. In Japan, they thought Datsun would sell better than Nissan. So over in the US market, this is known as the Datsun 240Z, while over in Japan, this is known as the Nissan Fairlady Z. No 240, nothing like that. So today, I'm gonna show you all the quirks and features, get it out on the road and drive it, and give it a Doug score. Let's start with the interior. This interior is beautiful and simplistic in the best ways possible. For one thing, there's this slot here for a key. That's right, a key. And this key fits this car only. And you stick it in this slot right here and you turn it to start the car. The dashboard itself is the ultimate in simplicity. Speedometer, tachometer, temp gauge, oil gauge, fuel gauge of course, amp gauge, and a clock. One clock! All the levers, the gear shift is all good. The parking brake is in the right place. And if you look down here in the center console, you have a choke, a manual choke. They expected people to know how to use this. They had to teach people how to use this. And then you move to the glove compartment. It has a key to lock it. It's the same key. Not a valet key, the same key. And then on this glove compartment, there's a little plaque here that gives you different tire sizes and different tire pressures depending on what speed range you think you're going to be driving. All the vent controls and the heater control, who needs AC? All here, very simple, laid out very good. Adjustable. So if you look at this dash, the 1970 dash, very space age, futuristic, very ahead of its time. And Datsun ruined it in the following years. As the years progressed, it got very boxy, very square. But now, as you can see in the 370, it's back to this very space age. They really went back in time with the 350 and the 370. And these seats, one size fits all. No need for any of that other stuff. Just one lever to move it back and forth, the other lever to move the back and forth. That's all you need. Steering column, no adjustments there, no up and down, no telescoping, everything perfectly positioned. Every time you add another knob or another lever, you add weight. This car is all about lightness so that it goes faster. So while we're here, let's start it up and give it a listen. This car was before the age of needing a safety switch on the clutch to make sure you didn't start the car in gear. Up next, let's move to the exterior. Look at this front end. Look at this bumper, molded perfectly into the fender. In later years, they had to add the 5-mile-an-hour bumper to this thing. It was a government regulation. It pushed the bumper out, way out. It interrupted the lines completely. This is a thing of beauty. This part of the fender is called the light bucket. These are made of steel. In later years, they made them cheaper out of fiberglass, but they weighed more. And look at this hood. This is the pinnacle of simplicity, form, and function. No holes, no nothing, just simple. In later years, they started to put holes and louvers and scoops in this thing. All it did was make it heavier. Light. That's what you need in this car. As we move to the rear of the car, we pass this badge. This badge says a lot about this car. It says this is a first generation car. It says that this body is the lightest body they made. But it also says that it's not venting its airflow through it very well. They had to move the vents from back here to up here to get fresher air flowing through the car. So if you see a Datsun with the circle with just a Z in the middle, that's the second generation. This badge has no vent behind it because the vents are in the tail. And now we move to the back of the car. Look at this bumper. Beautifully placed, flowing lines, no interruptions, no gaps. In later years, it was pushed out a mile. Some people say on the front of these cars that bumper weighed so much it would change the driving characteristics of the car. So they just removed it and left it off. Again, this car was all about weight. And here are the louvers for the 1970 first gen year only. These were removed when the vents were moved over to the side pillars. Just beautiful. Okay, driving the Datsun 240Z. What can I say? Can you see the smile on my face? It drives straight, it's tight, it's light, it's quick, it handles well. What do you expect? It's a 50-year-old car. I think back then, this car was way ahead of its time. Rack and pinion steering. No power steering though. Again, less weight, doesn't steal horsepower from the motor, but it handles just fine. The feedback is good. I wouldn't want to drive it around in a parking lot all day, especially in the heat, because of course this car doesn't have air conditioning. That was unheard of for a sports car back then. It robbed horsepower, it added weight. The driving position feels great. It's perfect. Steering wheel's in the right place, pedals are in the right place. Heel toeing the clutch, going into turns. The gear shift is in the right place. The throws are good, short. It came that way. It was designed that way. Yep, no extra bells and whistles, no extra lights. Just designed to be a purely fun car. And again, all designed around the fact that they made it light and they made it powerful. Unlike today's 370, which is heavy and not very powerful. I'm going down a pretty bumpy road right now. And it handles it okay. But again, it just brings a smile to my face. So, this car doesn't even have a computer to run the engine. I wouldn't even say it has an engine harness. All the wiring is basic. Visibility, good all the way around. I even like the squeaks and the rattles this car has. When we were autocrossing it, this car would get very unhappy and really start groaning and squeaking. But just for the weekend drives and around town, it's a good little car. It is almost 50 years old. It really hasn't been refurbished too much. A couple of refreshers. That's about it though. And she's quick and she's fast. So, I guess now it's time to give it a Doug score. Starting with the weekend categories and styling, the Datsun 240Z is perfect, so it gets a 10 out of 10. Next up is acceleration. It goes fast enough to put a smile on my face, so it gets a 10 out of 10. Handling is excellent. It's a short, rear-wheel drive, very light and very powerful car, so it gets a 10 out of 10. Fun factor? Well, it's a clutch, it's a 5-speed, it's a rear-wheel drive, it's really light. You do the math.
It gets a 10 out of 10. This car's been around for 50 years now, and it's still the coolest thing on the road. Especially when you run into somebody who actually knows that this is a first gen and was only made for 1 year. So it gets a 10 out of 10. So that gives it a weekend score of 50 out of 50. Next up, the daily categories. First up is features. It doesn't have any. I don't want any. The designers didn't want any. Remember, this car just brings a smile to my face, features or not. So it gets a 10 out of 10. Next up is comfort. This car fits me like a glove. It fits everyone like a glove. Everything is exactly where it should be, fitting as perfectly as ever. Besides, it brings a smile to my face. So it gets a 10 out of 10. Quality is strong. It's been 50 years and the interior is still in there. The fact that there's anything left in there is amazing. So it gets a 10 out of 10. Practicality is perfect. It gives you an excuse to go for a drive without having to go to the grocery store to pick up groceries, take the dogs anywhere, take the kids anywhere. It's perfect. 2-seater, brings a smile to my face. 10 out of 10. Value. This car was originally sold for $3,000. We picked it up for $1,000, and with a little bit more love and attention, we could sell it for $10,000. Value doesn't get any better than that, so it gets a 10 out of 10. For a total daily score of 50 out of 50. Add it all up, and the Doug score is 100 out of 100, which places it here among rivals. Hey, what do you know? It's the #1 car. You think that score was a little biased?
Doug, I don't know how you do it. I'm just having way too much fun driving this car. How you can drive all them exotic cars and keep talking into the camera. It's beyond me.